Welcome everyone. Welkom iedereen. This is the lunch break. Het is 12 uur, dus we gaan beginnen. En hey Juan Pablo, nice to have you here. I will start with a presentation by Janne Baetsen. I will share my screen as the first participant. Let's see. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Let's see. Ideally, I can show it. Wait, let me see. No, what am I doing? Are you seeing only the slides or also the 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
We can see all slides.
Oh yeah. Well, it is like this. Okay, cool. I will start. It's always audio and readable.
Unfortunately, but believe me, I'm being punished for it as I hate recording my own voice, but I'm really not able to be visually present on the 1st of June. So you're hearing my Back to the Future voice of the 25th of May. I do hope you enjoy. To eat or be eaten. Questions are an interesting phenomena to me, like curious appetites, an inner desire that motivates us to produce, consume, and decompose bits and bytes of information that might lead us to previously unquestioned answers or unanswered questions, and therefore new realities, providing us with a sense of movement, direction, and fulfillment. You could say that delicious, energizing, and rather addictive meaning moments. Just like with food, a person's appetite for questions and answers can...
Ah, crap. Sorry. Why do I do this? No.
Phenomena to me, like curious appetites, an inner desire that motivates us to produce, consume, and decompose bits and bytes of information that might lead us to previously unquestioned answers or unanswered questions, and therefore new realities, providing us with a sense of movement, direction, and fulfillment. You could say that delicious, energizing, and rather addictive meaning moments. Just like with food, a person's appetite for questions and answers can rise, fall, and change in flavor due to a wide range of factors. And with today's broad range of diets, which interestingly comes from the Greek word dieta, meaning way of life, we definitely have got a lot on our plate.
What a peculiar place to have a party. You know, Dino, we really shouldn't be doing this. After all, we haven't been invited, and curiosity often leads to trouble.
So what curious appetites drove me down this rabbit hole? Why did I choose to join a specific lunch table? Why do I want to bite into this menu of questions? What kind of hunger or emptiness drives or evokes my desire to question? How and why might my selection of questions and taste for answer differ from yours and others? Is my appetite born out of frustration, love, hate, loneliness, ambition, conflict, hope, disbelief, passion, fear, you name it? And do I prefer a la carte, or am I more a sharing taste menu kind of girl?
I was looking for an answer. It's the question that drives us in. It's the question that brought you here. You know the question?
I can't help but question. Should the ambition of our questioneering be to find the essence of art, schools, and education, or the essence of our questioning? Because in a world where all the answers are present, true value and change might only be created by understanding the collective quest behind our questions. Why are we not satiated with the given answers by today's reality? Why do we want to ask these questions? What do we want to achieve and at what cost? Why do these questions need to be asked, not only to you, but also to others? When will the answers be considered good or bad, right or wrong, yes or no? Who is allowed to ask questions and who is considered able to answer them? For whom will this answer taste bitter and for whom will it taste sweet? Also, would the radical students from the 60s, 70s, and 80s be satisfied with today's reality of art education or education in general? If so, why aren't we? If not, would their questions be the same as ours? To keep the questioning alive. Might an ever-evolving, limitless appetite towards growth based on individualism be the reason why we can't stop asking questions, somewhat implying we will never find that all-satisfying answer? Therefore, what's the point of questioning? Just for the sake of doing? To be able to stay in pursuit? Perhaps our repetitive question and our quest for questions for radical change, whether in the shape of student protests or countercultural revolutions, whether in the name of feminism, racism, sexism, liberalism, nationalism, or environmentalism, over the last 70 years tell us all we need to know.
I hardly know, sir. I've changed so many times since this morning, you see.
I do not see. Explain yourself.
I'm afraid I can't explain myself, sir, because I'm not myself, you know.
I do not know.
Well, I can't put it any more clearly, for it isn't clear to me.
You? Who are you?
Well, don't you think you ought to tell me who you are first?
Why?
Oh, dear, everything is so confusing.
To be continued. Despite answered questions and previous reforms, underneath the global surface, nothing has really changed. The same systems, lines, structures, and play fields of power and control are still in place. Although the world may look better to you and I, and the words, images, and ideologies that drive our questions and debates come in different colors, tones, and shapes, the hunger is somewhat still there, but the fairy tales and smoke screens written by ourselves might keep us in a state of fulfillment. By focusing on expressing our questions to find our answers in consensus with other like-minded, are we, and art as well, failing to reveal the general truth by mistaking it for self-expression and a comfortable inner truth, only to keep a preferred reality and perfect dream alive, our preferred reality and our perfect dream?
To be or not to be.
To eat and be eaten. Does art need form to be able to function? Does art need the box to think outside the box? Does art need to go down to go up? Does art need control to be free? Does art need an end to create a beginning? Does art need to fight a bad old system to create a good new one? Does art need the questions to be the answer? I don't have the answer, but I hope you enjoyed these questions. So as for now, bottoms up and bon appetit.
We thank Janne Baetsen, who delivered the questions from London and couldn't be here. And continue, and we go to Willem Vrancken. Hey Willem. Dag Willem. Elke taal is goed.
Hello. So you want me to ask a question?
Yes.
personally, I've been in contact with art schools for a large part of my life. I've been a student at the local art academy from 7 years old until 18 years old. So that's already 12 years. I studied graphic design in a higher education, which was 5 years. I've been a teacher at a high school level art school for 11 years. And now I'm a public mediator at a museum in Hasselt. So I've been around art for quite a while. The question that keeps coming up for me is especially linked to art schools, is how can we bridge the gap between the form of the school and the outside world? Because I often experience an art school as some sort of island where people function that might think differently, and by grouping together in some sort of school, they get perceived by the outside world as some sort of other type of people. And I think for the arts to function in their true form, I do believe that art, the purpose of art is to provoke dialogue. And if this wants to work in the most optimal way, I think we should close the gap between the art school and the outside world. But I do think there's always a barrier between the two, which leads to some sort of alienation or different language, maybe. That's something I also confront as a public mediator within a museum. Is there's the inside world within the museum with the artists and the curators, and there's like the public team that tries to mediate between the artists and the curators and the visitors in the outside world. And there's a huge language barrier. And personally, I think that's a problem, and I think that's a problem that that could be helped by making that gap already within art schools. So I don't know if that's a question.
Perfect. Thank you, Willem. Y continuamos con Juan Pablo Ramos Valadez. Hola, Juan Pablo.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están?
Muy bien.
Mi pregunta va a ser en español y luego para los que no hablen español va a ser en inglés, traducida. Como contexto rápido, estoy hablando desde un estudiante que estuvo en México, en mi escuela de diseño, alejada de la ciudad, aunque parece que está dentro de. Y siempre he creído que la escuela de diseño de arte es un mundo entre cuatro paredes que está muy lejos de la realidad. Y de hecho está muy relacionado con lo que decía Willem. ¿Qué pasaría? Mi pregunta es la siguiente. ¿Qué pasaría si las escuelas de arte o diseño no estuvieran encerradas en cuatro paredes? Si en lugar de las clases si en lugar de esto las clases se llevaran a cabo en vivo en medio de la ciudad, dejando a todos los ciudadanos participar, dar su punto de vista, aprender y también enseñarles a los alumnos. Tal vez podríamos tener una escuela mucho más actualizada, tal vez un laboratorio vivo en el que los estudiantes tendrían que usar medios de transporte público para llegar a sus clases o entre clases, y tendrían tal vez que considerar diseñar siempre con la mayoría en mente. And so for people that don't speak English, I'm giving a little bit of context. I'm Juan Pablo. I come from Mexico, from a city called Guadalajara. It's a really, really big city. It's like 8 million people. And I've always considered that even as you can see here, the city is huge, and the art school is here. It's really out far. It's actually very connected to what Willem was saying. That it always seems like the school and the reality are so far apart. So my question is actually about that, and it's saying what would happen if art and design schools were not locked up inside four walls. If instead of that, classes were held live in the middle of the city, leaving all citizens to participate, giving their super valuable point of view. We would actually let them learn and also teach students. Perhaps we would have a much more updated school, perhaps a live laboratory in which students would have to use public transport to get between classes. This is specifically important in Mexico because Mexico City has very divided class system. So if you have access to art school, it means you have money. It means you will always be in a car. It will mean you will always be far from the majority of people, from 8 out of 10 Mexicans. So it also means that they might have to always consider the majority when designing, when applying their knowledge from school. So that's a simple question that it might not seem very relevant in places like Europe or here in Italy where I live. But in Mexico, I believe they are super relevant, and it's because of the class system. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. We continue. We gaan voort en we zullen zien welke taal. We will see which language is chosen. Deniece. Hey, Deniece Clermont. Nu zie ik uw achternaam pas, want tot nu was je altijd Deniece Sami C.
Ja, dat ben ik ook. Yeah, we'll do it in English. Yeah, I graduated an art school 10 years ago now. I think even exactly 10 years I graduated. And I studied fashion design, but what I really felt was I was the least creative in school. And I also believe that it's a weird idea to learn or to teach creativity. It's more about to cope with how the world might work, or at least that's what I kind of tasted in art school. Or maybe not even, maybe it's something completely different that has nothing to do with how the real world works. And after I graduated, I really felt like what was missing was some guidance in what now, because now I had some tools in how to get a creative process and how to create and organize an idea and work with deadlines, work together with fellow students, which could be a challenge, but not at all how it worked in the outside world. So was a little bit confused when I graduated. And actually, I was glad that I think 3 years after that, I got really sick, mentally ill and physically ill. And then the creativity helped me again. And I think the last few years, I learned more about developing myself as a person in interacting with people and the world than any art school could ever do. But I do value that I had the playground, which I always considered the art school. Like they had the tools, they had the interaction with maybe professionals to talk to, or like the workplaces, and I think the room and space to experiment. And I think that is something that you should never let go of, the drive to experiment. And it's quite harsh when you're not in art school anymore and you graduated for a long time, you cannot get in anymore to get the great tools that you get used to, and you now realize how fucking expensive they are. So yeah, maybe some little guidance and info about that could not hurt. But as well, Willem, as Juan, if I pronounce your name well, I hope, also said it's more of an elite kind of idea to go to art school. And I realized that when I started that I'm kind of a ghetto girl, if you can say this. And like the whole art world is more evolved around to know people and to be in the right group. And I do believe that this is now shifting by also with this kind of events, so that we get to know each other. And what it is really about is, I think, a way of expressing yourself, and yeah, something very pure. I don't think that art necessarily has a goal. It just comes from the purest thing that is within. And the only thing you can teach is either to how to get it out in a way that is nice or good to do something with, or to guide how you can, work with it, I think. But what is within is within. You cannot, learn that anywhere, I think. Only life can teach you that. So yeah, question. I have many questions, but a lot of words, I think.
Thank you, Deniece.
You're welcome.
We continue, and I believe she's here, but I cannot see her. Silvana, Hurtado, Dianderas, in any language. Is it you that has no camera on? Let's see.
No, it's not. My name is Ayman, and I am not at art school for the moment, but I'm joining out of interest. And my camera is not working today, and
that's okay.
I can say a few lines if that is helpful.
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So I studied law and arts, and then professionally, I always thought that I sort of needed to make it as an artist, and that didn't happen. So I reverted to law, but that gave me some free time and playground to be active in arts, not professionally, but for fun. And that is actually when it sort of, well, I just started to happen, but nothing really happened. I just started to enjoy working with art again. And I am going to art school, but schools were closed due to COVID. So I worked mostly by myself. And I do feel that sort of in general, my life is my work of art. And whether there are specific artworks that are produced along the way, and whether I donate them, or whether they are like exhibited or in a gallery, or it's less relevant, because I do truly believe
Silvana, your connection failed after I do believe, at a crucial moment. Maybe if you hear me, maybe you can restart your computer and we continue after a short break. And I will show, I will show a clip from Carina Gosselé, or Carina in her performance name. 1 second. Carina Gosselé, voila. And this was a clip without sound. And we continue with Dimitri Vossen. And Dimitri.
Hello. Yes, I'm on the train for the moment, so I think it's safest not to put any video on because I might lose connection.
Good.
I'll show my face really brief. So there you go. Now you have a mental picture. And thank you, Pablo, for inviting me. Yes. So how will we continue? Oh, just a moment. I have to show my tickets real quick. Yeah. All right. Pablo?
Dag Dimitri. Hey.
Ja, hallo. Hoor je mij?
Ja, ja, ik hoor u.
Okay. You want me to go right into the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Now, as we are seeing that also the arts are moving into more of a gig economy, I was thinking about or asking the question like how do art schools prepare their students towards this evolution? Is it like something that has to be fought against, or is it something that you have to use in your advantage, or do you see any other progression going forward in that? So what I'm talking about is, you know, more of or less of a funding mechanism and more of a Patreon mechanism that is creeping more and more into different areas of the arts industry and activity, especially for younger and lesser known artists. So I was thinking about, well, wondering about your opinions on that.
We bundle the silence and continue. Thank you very much, Dimitri.
Yes.
and we continue and we go to Anne Büscher.
Hello. Yeah, my question would be, why do we always have to communicate or talk so much verbally in art school? Because I also sometimes really like the idea that, for example, with a ceramic bowl or something, the form tells you itself if it's right or not. And there's also so many other ways as a visual person to communicate or to talk to each other without using direct language, like talking or writing. And I also had a conversation with Marika, who's also here today in our talk, that how would it look like if you ask a question through dance, or what could you answer in a different way than talking? So that would be my main question. And it also, yeah, it's funny because it came back many times today already for me, that when in the first or in the video you just showed, there was no language involved, but there were a lot of questions and a lot of answers and a lot of thoughts just communicated by, yeah, behaving. And of course, if it's online, and then it's very difficult because you don't have the full body presence to communicate and all the potential that it might, yeah, could have or could be. But yeah, I think that it would be nice if we could put flip it a bit upside down and put the focus sometimes more on less talking and find other ways through communication.
And I jump in. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Marika Meoli.
Yes, so I'm a dancer and a performer, and it just happened that 2 weeks ago we did something with Anne and Pablo together, which was just meeting into a space and without being really much prepared, and using the body to communicate and to sort of like find agreements within us, which were not set on language. And I believe that, and I'm really seeing that now. I mean, especially I'm a student now, but I'm a dance therapy student. So I use my body somehow every day to communicate my state of being and to sort of also understand other people. And I find it very useful because somehow I think that when you are connected through this medium, you also find a certain center inside of yourself, which is, I think, very important for artists, because we are somehow then all the time pulled by different things that are happening, and it's very hard somehow to find a core and to find like myself into this world. And I would like to really ask to art school, they're not performance-based, why movement and the body is not like used in its maximum potential? Like why art school are not really focusing on establishing also like this tool as a form of like connection for the person, connection for the art, and also a way to discover your position of an artist.
Thank you, Marika. We continue and go.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Marika. We continue and we go to Inga Erdmane in Riga. Hello, Inga.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Okay, greetings from Riga, and thanks, Pablo, for inviting me. I will read some fragments from a book I published in 2018. It's a conversation between two artists. What is the pleasure of ignorance? Hey, how interesting to have this conversation with you without actually hearing your replies to my questions, and vice versa. I guess that immediately brings us in a state of ignorance. Two people having an exchange without hearing what the other actually thinks. I will have to extrapolate what your thoughts are from the questions you ask. I imagine there could be pleasure in that. There is certainly a pleasure in trying an activity like this, which is different from other writing activities. Your thoughts behind my veil of ignorance. I wonder what we will encounter. What is your pleasure of ignorance? Mans mīļākais dienas laiks ir tās dažas sekundes pēc pamošanās, kad tu vēl neatceries, kas tu esi, kāds ir gadsimts. Es priecājos nezināt neko, kad tu atver acis un tam, ko viņas redz, vēl nav nosaukuma, kad ir tikai redzēšana un dzirdēšana, bet nav vēstures, kultūras un citu tādu, kas mūs citu no citas šķir. Iespējams, nezināšanas prieks ir saistīts ar to, ka tajā mēs visi esam kopā. Zināšanas ir dažādas, bet nezināšana mums ir tikai viena. What is the last thing you remember not knowing? The last thing I remember not knowing? Wow, that's a tough question to start the exchange. There is so much I don't know, and I guess being in the dark about what I don't know makes it hard to know. For sure, whatever I know it or not. I'm not sure an example is coming to me so easily. Is this because I'm ignorant of my lack of knowledge, or do know that I enjoy not knowing when I first engage a project? I like to be completely in the dark as to where the project or process might go. How would you describe naivety with your work of process? Es nezinu, ko nozīmē šis vārds, naivums. I'm not really interested in a world where something or someone is being referred to as naive. I feel this word is empty, so I'm curious, what meaning does it have for you? Haha. I was wondering why you finished your previous answer so quickly. I certainly don't mean naivety as an insult. I see it more in a line of the pleasure of ignorance. It's a state of not knowing, not being an expert, finding out as you go along. I think being naive in a situation means that there is a freedom to not worry about the mistakes you might make. When you don't understand the rules, there is no way of knowing whatever you are breaking them. I think this is what I like about the 5 photographers Inga worked with. They didn't have photographic or artistic conventions to hinder their creativity. They were wonderfully naive of them, and so they made surprising choices and at the time reinvented the wheel in order to go novel results. So perhaps I should formulate the question differently. When did not knowing help you in creating something artistic? Man ir grūti sevi definēt ar kādu no zināmajām mākslas formām, jo tās ir pārāk zināmas. Esmu novērojis, ka man pārstāj interesēt tas, ko es iemācos. Profesionalizācija rada institucionalizāciju mākslai un hierarhiju, un man tas šķiet kaut kas pretējs mākslai. Pieļauju, ka tev arī. Man sajūsmina tas, ka tu esi choreogrāfs nebūdams dejotājs. Choreogrāfija un laikmatīgā deja teorētiski aizgāja šķirtus ceļus jau 80. Tomēr es neesmu satikusi tik daudzus, kas uzdrīkstas choreografēt cilvēku stāvokli. Nevis nevainojums un neievainojums dejotāju ķermeņus. Es vēlos strādāt ar klātbūtni, jo tikai tur es spēju saskatīt kaut kādu mākslas saturu, kas būtu atšķirīgs no, piemēram, vēstures, tehnoloģiju attīstības un amatniecības. Tikai tur ir grūti runāt par kvalitāti. Man laikam neinteresē teritorijas, kur iespējams runāt par kvalitāti. Amatniecība un amatierisms nav viens un tas pats, lai arī latviešu valodā šiem vārdiem ir līdzīgas saknes. Do you think that ignorance enjoys the respect it deserves in our contemporary world? No, I don't believe it does. I think our societies are structured in such a way that success is always the goal. Banishing ignorance is deemed a road to that success. I think that it's why art is so powerful. In the artistic context, there is so much more room for failure, and ignorance finds a place much easier. However, I do believe that many artistic practices fear ignorance and failure. The pressure from society for artists to become entrepreneurs as well as creatives has become greater. Artists are expected to sell and participate in the economy of things, but an artist can be so much more than that. The artist has the role of a renegade in society as well as a simple creator. We need to renegades to reflect on where our societies are going. At the moment, I fear society is being consumed by the market and materialism. When art becomes nothing more than an extension of that, there is less room for the pleasure of ignorance and or mistakes. What do you think is the single most important role for the artist in society? Domāšana. If you could pick one tool or skill you could erase and return to 100% freshness, which one would it be? There isn't one I can think of. I don't feel I have any tools that I am such an expert on that they could be functionally erased to the extent that this would be beneficial to my practice. I think I'd rather continue to evolve the tools and skills that I have. Some are discarded as they become superfluous, others adapt to the situation. I just don't have the patience to relearn a skill. I'd rather practice seeing things and experiencing them from the first time. I think that would be more useful. What is a tool or skill that you would like to pass onto a participant of a workshop similar to that of Ingas? Redzēšana, kaut ko redzēt, skatīties kā acī, acis, kas skatās uz tevi, nevis pašas uz sevi. What do you see right now? Without looking on a purpose, I see that the evening is slowly falling. What question would you like to ask to yourself? Kāpēc tevi interesē klātbūtne? Vai tas ir materiāls, kas ir līdzīgs mālam? What is the difference between a professional and a lover? Does there have to be? There is a difference between a loving professional and a professional lover. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Inga. I will share my screen. I will show an image created by Steebz Khuan, and I will show this image the length of the song Jazz Snob Eat Shit by Naked City, and the length is 35 seconds. This was Steebz Khuan. I will write my final question myself. Also will share my screen. Thank you very much, everyone. This was the lunch break, the final edition. We will bundle these recordings, video recordings, into something we call Let's Burn All the Art Schools, which will take place in this summer. And you will be informed, and we will find a way to make this, to translate this into something else. You were wonderful. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, Marika. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon for an ice cream.
Sure.